It's the Mr. Fitzy Painting Show. Robots, skeletons, and unicorns. Big wheels, elephants, and astronauts. It's the Mr. Fitzy Painting Show. Painting can take you where you wanna go. It's the Mr. Fitzy Painting Show.
Top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Mr. Fitzy Painting Show. Can you tell by my greeting that it's March? What do we celebrate in March? If you're Irish, like me, you celebrate St. Patrick's Day. So I thought that we could paint a leprechaun. And that's going to give us a lot of great things to work on. So let's load up our brush with some sky blue and get right down to painting. I've got some dark shade of cerulean and a lighter shade of cerulean. And I'm gonna go ahead and brush it all around. Now, I suppose that you've heard of leprechauns before. And what's the one thing that they're known for? That's right, treasure. They've got gold. So we're going to have to go ahead and paint this leprechaun. And then we're going to have to paint his gold. Now, where are we going to find the gold from this leprechaun? That's right, at the end of his rainbow. So we're going to need all the colors so that we can paint a rainbow. So I've squeezed out red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So I've got those ready. I'm going to finish brushing in my sky and get right to work on the leprechaun because we've got plenty to do. So I'll wash out my big brush and get my detail brush ready. I'm going to use a brown to do the underpainting of my leprechaun. That's where we outline them and we put in some shading. Because what color are we going to make our leprechaun? That's right, green. So I made his hat, and I made his head. There's his neck. Now, leprechauns are known for mischief and tricks. So I'm going to think about that when I'm painting him in. There's his leg and his body, and he's going to have some boots. Let's make him kicking his heels like he's doing an Irish dance called a jig. Have you ever danced a jig? It's pretty fun. Maybe I'll have to show you. But first we got to paint in our leprechaun. So there he is, jumping and clicking his heels together. All right. Now, I want to give him a little bit of pointiness to his ears. There we go. Now I got to make his arm. And his other arm. See how I made his upper arm and then his lower arm. 2 parts to your arm. And just quickly, because it's just the underpainting with the brown, I will draw in his hands. Now in this hand, he's going to have his shillelagh. You know what a shillelagh is? That's like a walking stick. So you have to be careful if you're trying to get his gold, or he might try to hit you with this shillelagh. All right, now I'm going to wash my brush out, and let's think about letting that leprechaun dry just a little bit and going right into our rainbow. So like I said, red goes up at the tip top. So let's load up a medium-sized brush, gently twirling it around with red, and put it all the way up. I may have to load it up a couple of times because my blue isn't all the way dry. But that's okay if I can see some of my sky through my rainbow. Because that's what happens. It's a prism. When the light shines through the raindrop, then you see all the colors of the rainbow. They all add up to make white. Now paint, that's the opposite. If you mix all your colors up, you're not going to get white. So color can be a little tricky. Next comes orange. And don't worry if you get some of one color on top of another. That's how you make red-orange. So if some of your red bumps into some of your orange, that's what you want it to do. Okay? It's important to wash my brush out in between each color. Otherwise, when you go to do the next color, you'll have them all mixed together. You'll have gray or brown. I got yellow. There we go. Load it up. Have you ever seen a rainbow? I hope so. Now this year, it's pretty cold. I don't know if you can have a rainbow from snow, but that might be the only rainbow that you'll see on St. Patty's Day. Now, did you know where else you find leprechauns besides Ireland? There's one other place. Well, there might be more, but there's one other place that I know about. Hawaii. That's right. I bet you didn't know that they have leprechauns in Hawaii. But when I went to Hawaii on my honeymoon, my wife and I went to Kauai, and we learned about the menehune. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they were some of the earliest settlers of Hawaii, and they were leprechauns on Kauai, and they helped build a fish pond there. So sometimes leprechauns do mischief, but sometimes they can do good things too. So let's decide that our leprechaun's going to be a good leprechaun, not a guy after mischief. Okay, now after the blue comes blue violet. That's what indigo is. I've already got some indigo all mixed up, so you can see what color that is. There we go. Yep. It's fun to paint a rainbow. And you can do it with crayons too if you don't have paint. Always. And lastly, we've got our violet. All right. Not bad. Take a minute. If I went too fast, can always catch up. Now, let's think about painting some green. I've got some dark green, some sap green. Maybe I could use that for my leprechaun's pants. And I could use a darker green for a vest. Leprechauns usually wear dress clothes. There we go. All right. And I'm going to use a deep green, but not quite as dark. Start painting some more of his clothes. There we go. Looks pretty good. On his hat, I'm going to give him a good luck symbol. Do you know what a leprechaun's good luck symbol is? That's right, a 4-leaf clover. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll put a little stem there. Wash out my brush. And now I'll use a light green, which is also a yellow green for the rest of his hat. And you can make your leprechaun however you want. But I would just make sure that I use different kinds of green, because that is the color for St. Patrick's Day. And on top of my brown, I can put in some of that dark green. And you start to see how when you put in more details on top of your underpainting, it starts looking good. There's his nose. Now I'll get going on his eyes. There we go. Maybe I'll give him blue eyes. Back to the blue. And leprechauns are known for their red hair, right? Actually a little more orangey perhaps. So I load up my brush with orange. Start to put it on there. Looking good. If you want, your leprechaun might have one of those little beards. A fiery orange beard. Looks like fire. Well, it's not. It's a beard. Okay. And I think that's looking pretty good. Let's give him a bow tie. Make it kind of a darker green. I'll go back to my yellow green for his shirt. The farther up you hold your brush, the more control you'll have with your brush strokes. I'll give his cuffs on his shirt some of that yellow green, and down on his boots I'll make the tops of his boots yellow green, and Still got to finish his shirt. Okay. Let's take a step back for a little, see how he's doing. Looking pretty good. Let's give him some give him a nice smile on his lips. Now, I forgot to mix up some of his skin tone. All different skin tones people have. You could use a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow. Mix that in with some white. That'll give you kind of a peachy tone. Put a little bit of a brown in there. Kind of make it tanner. A little bit of a darker brown, depending on just what kind of a skin tone you want to mix up. There we go. We'll start putting that in there for his face. Let's see a little bit on his neck. Paint in those hands. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. He's waving hello to you. You can wave hello right back. And his hand holding the shillelagh, just make little lines like that. Maybe you can see his thumb sticking up towards the back. I gotta finish that face. He looks like he's pretty much fun. Leprechauns know lots of good stories. You could even invent your own story about a leprechaun. All right. He needs some skin tone in his ears. There we go. Gonna outline that hat a little bit. The top of it with that deep sap green. It's called sap because it's like tree sap. So maybe we've got to touch him up a little bit by painting on top of some of that underpainting that we made in brown. Okay. He's kicking his heels together. Now I'm going to use some of my other colors to finish his shillelagh. And we can just give it some dark brown and light brown all around because it's a stick, so it might have some bumps and wiggles and squiggles and some lighter spots and some darker spots. Now, you've got to have a pot of gold. I'm going to use dark green to make a big pot of gold. I make an oval, and at the top, I guess I made more of a circle. At the top, I made a kind of an oval. And then I'm going to have a handle. Oh, it goes right through the rainbow. I like that. That made a real fun area. It's good to use thick paint. Give it a couple of different shades of green. That will help make it look like the sun is shining on there. Darker in the shadows. More of a yellow green where the sun is hitting the pot of gold. That was the part where I jump around a little bit. I see where my painting needs some extra here and there, where I could get a little thicker, maybe outline some of my leprechaun's face with that green. The more green, the better for St. Patty's Day. All right. Now, let's see. I've got to make the gold. So, luckily, I had some gold left, and I can start putting the coins right in there. I could just put them thick. If I don't have room to make circles, I can make thick dabs of gold. The more that I put in there, each little swirl, they'll really start looking like gold. He's got a lot of gold there, but you're not going to know where to find it unless he gives you a map to the end of his rainbow. Sometimes people ask me, Mr. Fitzy, do leprechauns really exist? And that's a question that I always think back to what my mother said. She believed they existed. So, you have to think for yourself. Maybe ask your mom and dad. Ask your family. See what they say. Okay. Now, one thing we've got to think about is the grass. And in Ireland, they have lots of rolling green hills. So, let's start to make some squiggly green lines for the rolling hills. And I've never been to Ireland, but a lot of times they have bogs which have peat moss in them. And sometimes they can burn the peat moss for their fuel. It's got a neat smell to it because my friend visited Ireland and brought some back. So maybe this leprechaun is in a peat bog because it seems like we got a lot of different kind of greens. Maybe we'll make some zigzags in there. That looks pretty good. Also gives us a chance to kind of use up some of that brown for the ground. Always like to use as much of my paint as I squeeze out as I can so I don't waste it. That might be a good color for the grass. And maybe in the front, you can mix up your own yellow-green. Take yellow, mix it with my green. Oh, I've got a green I didn't even have at all before. I think I need a bigger brush. Go back to my brushes. I can really start getting in some of this green. Ooh, that looks cool. There we go. Some of the ground. It's good to have a pattern even in the ground. Don't just paint it all one green. Won't be as interesting. Maybe have some brown and then green and then brown, and then green. All right. There we go. The grass is going right up by the rainbow. This is kind of a good time to take a step back too and see where you're at. Sometimes you don't even think about the choices you're making now. Just kind of let the color decide where it wants to go. There we go. A little more yellow for the sun shining in the peat bog. Okay. Now remember to wear green on March 17th for St. Patrick's Day. Even if you're not Irish, it's okay. You can still celebrate. All right. Thing is, Ireland is an island too, just like Hawaii. I wonder if there's any leprechauns that live somewhere that's not an island. Ireland is the Emerald Island. Oh, so green. And Hawaii's pretty green too. Okay. Trying to cover some of those little white spots. My daughter had an art teacher who used to call those peekaboo spots. Had them cover them up. So sometimes I think that, covering in those peekaboo spots, that makes your painting look more solid. Okay. Blending it together a little bit. Take a step back. Now, because I mixed up that skin tone, I can use a little bit of the white and a real small detail brush to go ahead and put in some light spots right on the eyes. Probably need another brush, even a little bit, not smaller, but drier. So I can get that light spot in there. There we go. Perfect. And maybe some clouds. Or I could take some of my dark blue and put in a few raindrops. Maybe the rain has just stopped and the rainbow came out. I like those. Well, I think we're finished. All we got time for is signing our painting. So I'll take a dark green and sign it under the rainbow. Happy St. Patty's Day to you. Until next time, see you in the studio.
It's the Mr. Fitzy Painting Show. Robots, skeletons, and unicorns. Big wheels, elephants, and astronauts. It's the Mr. Fitzy Painting Show. Painting can take you where you